Hi there, I'm Emily. And one time, a mean girl at school locked me in the boys' bathroom, and that led to me meeting her rich boyfriend. But before I tell you anything else, please remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell icon to show your support for me. I was never bullied. I skated by in high school thinking that I was lucky no one picked on me. I wasn't popular, but I wasn't unpopular either. When I met Rita, my high school life changed. I don't know what it was. Maybe she was just acting up because her parents never paid any attention to her. Rita picked on a lot of people, even some of the teachers. And nobody could do anything about it because she always used her family's money as a weapon. She would always threaten the people she picked on to make sure they didn't report her or confront her parents about it. And whenever someone would have the idea of approaching Rita's mom or dad about their problem child, they would act all outraged about the accusations and turn the story around so that Rita is viewed as the victim. It was frustrating to watch when it happened to other people, and when it happened to me, it was unbearable. I really considered talking to my parents about transferring schools. One day, Rita just appeared behind me, all quiet like some hot, pink, neon-clothed cat. She bumped into me as I was opening my locker and exclaimed, "Ow! That hurt! Tay-Tay, did you see that?" Rita looked at her best friend Taylor, attempting to wink at her discreetly and failing. Taylor gasped with exaggeration. "I know, right? That was so rude! How inconsiderate, bumping into people like that. You should watch where you're going, ugly," she said. I had absolutely no idea what was happening, and so all I could mutter was, I was just trying to get into my locker. Rita laughed and parroted what I said mockingly. "I was just trying to get into my locker." "Maybe we should help her," suggested Taylor. "Brilliant idea, Tay-Tay. I was just thinking the same thing," said Rita, flashing a knowing grin at Taylor. Rita pulled my locker door open with one hand and shoved me into the locker with the other. Taylor pushed me in further as Rita worked on the lock. At that moment, I cursed the fact that we had full-sized lockers. I banged on the door, but no one came to my rescue. From the other side of the door, I heard Rita giggle. "You said you wanted to get in there, just helping a girl out." Their giggles faded away as I heard their footsteps disappear, and it took a full 5 minutes before anyone even helped me. "You okay?" the girl asked when she swung the locker door open to let me out. "I'm good. Thanks. Thanks for helping me," I said. From that day on, Rita found a way to make my high school life hell. Mostly, she'd pick on me in small, insignificant ways, like throwing paper balls at the back of my head during class. Sometimes, she does really messed up stuff, like texting random guys pretending to be me. On prom night, I had 5 guys I didn't even know turn up at my house, expecting to take me to the dance. I had to awkwardly and gently turn them away as I didn't want to go. I had no intention of getting pranked while wearing a dress. I thought I'd escaped a major incident by ditching prom, but it turned out Rita had something big planned for me. And the fact that I thwarted her plans by not showing up really annoyed her. I learned all this when she told me the very next Monday. Taylor and Rita cornered me after class and dragged me to the abandoned wing of the school where no one could hear me yell for help. Rita pushed my back against the wall and slapped me. "How dare you! You made me look like a fool!" Rita screamed as she pointed her shaking finger at my face. Her lips were so close to me. I was getting sprinkled by her rage. I had to wipe my face with my sleeves before I could respond. "Why don't you just leave me alone?" I screamed back at her. I'd had enough of her and Taylor picking on me. "Don't take your frustrations out on other people just because your parents don't love you enough to stay home!" Taylor gasped, and then Rita slapped me again. I saw murder in her eyes. I should have kept my mouth shut, but I wanted to add salt to her wounds. It was time someone stood up to her. "Oh, sorry, hun. Did I strike a nerve? Mommy and Daddy leave you home alone too much?" Rita said nothing. She stood there for a good minute just staring me down. And then she grabbed at the scruff of my shirt and dragged me into one of the nearby rooms. She pushed me inside, slammed the door behind me and yelled, "You're gonna die in there! Nobody's even gonna find you in there until it's too late." Then I heard the lock click before the clickety-clacking of their heels told me of their departure. How they got a key to lock me in, I never did find out. "Tomorrow's Tuesday, pea-brain!" I yelled back at Rita and Taylor's retreating footsteps. "It's not like I'm gonna die of hunger in 12 hours!" I checked my phone. No signal. The abandoned wing was abandoned for a reason. Nothing worked there. Not even most of the lights. No one could really explain it, and the principal had no interest in doing anything about the whole thing. I looked around and realized that they had trapped me in one of the boys' bathrooms. Great, I thought. Let's just hope whoever finds me in here doesn't think I'm some sort of peeping perv. And then one of the bathroom stalls swung open. I jumped in fright so suddenly my soul nearly left my body. It was CJ. I put a hand over my mouth in response to the shock of being 10 feet away from the most popular guy in school. "What are you doing here?" I asked him. "It's the guy's bathroom, isn't it? What are you doing here?" he replied, wiping at his eyes as if he'd just woken up from a nap. "I got locked in," I replied, still at a loss for words. "Locked in?" he said back. "And now you're locked in here with me," I said, the realization dawning on me a bit late. I was locked in a room with CJ. What were the odds of that, eh? Take that, Rita! See, CJ was Rita's boyfriend, and every girl had a crush on him. He was probably the hottest guy in school, and it didn't hurt that he was quite famous. Well, his brother was very famous, and by association, CJ was too. It's gonna get really interesting when he finds out that his girlfriend's the culprit behind the whole situation, I thought. "Locked in?" CJ said again. "Yes, dude, we're locked in. How many times do I have to say it?" I said jokingly. "Sorry," CJ said as he wiped his eyes again, blinking in the late afternoon sunlight. "Sorry, I must have dozed off for a bit there." "You take naps in bathroom stalls?" I laughed. "No!" CJ defended himself. "No, geez, no. Okay, this is gonna sound a bit weird and a whole lot braggy, so don't judge me, but sometimes I come here to avoid people and read manga. Some people tend to wait for me outside when the bell rings 'cause they know they can catch me at the parking lot. They ask for my brother's number and stuff, so I come and wait here until I know everyone's gone home. It can get pretty draining." "Yeah, totally relatable," I said. "Fame's such a burden for people like us, isn't it?" CJ wrinkled his nose at me and laughed. "Now you're just making fun of me. After I was all vulnerable and asked you not to judge." He laughed a nervous laugh, and then he scratched the back of his head as if he was embarrassed. "I'm just messing with you," I said to put him out of his misery. "But no, I get it. It must be tough having that many people on your tail all the time." "Okay, so tell me again," he said as he fished his phone out of his pocket and began to raise it above his head in search for a signal. "Tell me about this being locked in situation. How did this happen?" "You can ask your girlfriend that," I replied. "It was her idea to drag me in here." CJ looked away from his phone and directed his eyes on me, a perplexed expression in his face. "Rita?" "Who else?" I said. "Oh," was all CJ said in response. He looked down on his shoes and began kicking at the loose tiles on the floor. "Rita and I, she's... Isn't she your girlfriend?" I asked. "She likes to think that," said CJ. "I tried to break up with her twice already, but she keeps begging me to take her back. Guilts me and all that stuff. Said she'd already had her stuff made for prom, so I guess I kinda just rolled over and promised myself I'll break up with her for good after prom." I smiled and sighed. "And if it's after prom, third time's the charm, dude." I patted CJ's shoulder awkwardly and laughed. "Hang in there. I'm rooting for you." She's not that bad," CJ said half-heartedly. "Rita?" I said with a healthy amount of disbelief. "Yeah, I mean, she's a bit much, but she's going through a lot of stuff." "A bit much?" I laughed. "Okay, she's a lot a bit much." We both laughed at that. As our phone batteries emptied to a zero while waiting to be rescued, We found ways to entertain ourselves. We played charades, told stories about our families and friends, and went back to playing charades when we ran out of stories. When the pipes began to make weird noises, CJ told me creepy tales about the abandoned wing. He said the real reason it was abandoned because some kid died a tragic death in one of the rooms. And since then, nothing ever worked properly. He said we were lucky the lights even worked in the bathroom we got trapped in. Just then, the light flickered. And then, we heard footsteps echo from the corridor outside. My heart began to beat faster and harder against my ribcage. I began to hyperventilate. CJ and I exchanged horrified looks. People did say that talking about ghosts invited their presence. I felt cold sweat running down my forehead. And then, the door handle began to rattle. CJ and I jumped and screamed in fear at the same time. "What the?" came a voice from the other side of the door. It was the night janitor. He was just doing his rounds and luckily, he went to check why the light was on where we were. We were saved. CJ drove me home, and when he opened the door for me, he kissed me. I didn't know how to react. But, Rita, I could only say. "Rita who?" he simply replied. CJ broke up with Rita the next day. The look on her face as CJ took my hand in front of her and Taylor was priceless. She finally gave up on torturing me from then on. And she could only watch and envy as she saw me getting out of CJ's Lambo every day.